My name is Tim Okamura, and I'm a painter located here in beautiful Brooklyn, New York. I've been in New York City for about 27 years. I'm originally from Canada and moved here in the early 90s, found myself absolutely in love with the city and just stayed longer than I expected. And I've just been painting a lot of folks that I've met over the years. It's been really important to me to make a lot of great personal connections and have those people that I feel that connection with pose for me and become my models. So I think my love for the city is something that comes out in the work, hopefully, and hopefully my representation of some of the awesome folks that I've met here. I started painting when I was probably about 9 or 10 years old using oil paints. My father was a really skilled landscape painter, actually. He just did it as a hobby, but he encouraged me to paint, and we went to some painting classes together when I was quite young. I think the first painting I ever did was of a horse's head, which my parents still have in their basement somewhere. I fell in love with the idea that oil had such a connection to flesh. When I was painting portraits, there was something that felt very natural about using this material to create this likeness and this image. At the heart of it, and it's not always a romantic kind of love, it's sometimes a little bit of a, an abusive relationship. I just can't leave her. But it's, oil paint is what I'm kind of married to and have been for many years now. But it's interesting when people say you're so lucky you get to do what you love, because, like I said, it's a complicated kind of love. It's not that, oh, I love this, it's sunshine and rainbows and unicorns every day walking into the studio. It's really, it's work. I've had those moments where I thought, I just want to quit. It's sort of like you're bearing your soul to the world and saying, this is what I chose to do. Tell me now, how do you like it? It can be hard not to take that personally sometimes. It can be hard to sort of manage your ego. And on the flip side, when people are giving you great praise and telling you how great you are, to sort of stay even keeled and not let that blow your head up. It's like a shark, and I think Woody Allen said it years ago, like you just have to keep moving. You got to keep feeding. You can't stop or you'll die, And by that, I think he meant die creatively. Well, this is my main palette, which is a source of curiosity for those that come across it. And when they point out to me, when people point out like, this is really weird, I realize it is weird. It's really kind of a testament to laziness, probably more than anything, where I've just continued to squeeze out paint on top of paint on top of paint, rather than sort of clean it up and scrape it down like a lot of artists do. The bottom of this is probably from about 2003 or 2004. And so it's probably about 15 years of paint, although I have cut it down several times. So it would probably be 2 or 3 times as high if I hadn't have done that. To be clear, the feedback has been 99% positive, but sometimes I'm made aware of the fact that most of the subjects that I've chosen to paint and chosen to represent are people of color that I somehow realized this was kind of my life mission, to represent those who'd been underrepresented, to paint people that I hadn't really seen painted before, especially in the realm of realist figurative representation. And there are going to be those that question somebody who's not a person of color painting people of color. For them, that doesn't click. I'm that guy that I never was easily defined, as a person anyway. I'm half Japanese and half Newfoundlander from Canada. I've been a guy that's always been a square peg in a round hole. So I think the honesty and the love, and I don't say that lightly, but I mean the love of the intention, the love of the people that I work with, the love of who I'm trying to represent is what comes through. I think that people are very good and very instinctive at sniffing out somebody who is not authentic. This is a work in progress, and it's part of a a collaborative series that I did. It's basically this public collabo. I had a great residency at a gallery called Redbird Gallery in the Meatpacking District in Manhattan. And we had a lot of open studios, we had a lot of public coming through, and I wanted to find a way for the public to interact with my work, which, you know, as a portrait painter, you wouldn't naturally think that it would be a viable medium for people to interact with. I realized that I could just do these large canvases, spray paint a phrase, always a positive phrase about communication. That's really the idea behind this, is communication. And then sort of sketch in a figure, and then just give people markers, and they could just go to town and write whatever they wanted to write, whether they wanted to tag or write a poem or just write their names or draw a little cartoon. You know, I still have to finish the figure, but this is about the fourth or fifth in that series that that saw people come in and just contribute. And like every piece probably has like over 100 people, maybe more, that have come in and done a little something. You know, I'm still excited about New York almost 30 years after moving here. I can walk down the street and see, you know, a graffiti tag that excites me, and I get a sense of joy from seeing somebody who's got a great hand style and understands calligraphy and is putting that on a wall. And then I can, the same day, go to the Met and see a Rembrandt painting that's, you know, somebody who also has, you know, a great skill level with their hand, but is using it in a completely different way. I mean, allowing all this great creative energy and all the byproducts of that energy to be noticed by you and to come to you and to sort of feed your creative engine. So I'm a bit of an, you know, creative energy vampire. Sometimes I'm like just grabbing stuff from everywhere and using it to fuel my own drive. My influences as an artist, I've realized that as time has gone on, it's become broader and broader. I think that when I was younger, I was like any, you know, young figurative painter. You're looking at the old masters, and you're looking at Caravaggio and Rembrandt and Velázquez, and they were sort of the standard bearers, and they have been for hundreds of years. And so in terms of technique, those guys are still influential in regards to how I try to handle the figure. But some of the painters that maybe I dismissed when I was younger, some of the artists that I didn't look that closely at because I thought, oh, this is not my cup of tea, basically, I've come back around to and said, wow, like actually these guys were amazing. Tastes change, and I think broaden, and you become a little more sophisticated, I think, in terms of your palette. This is a total sneak preview. You're getting firsthand a brand new series that I'm just beginning, and it's, for me, quite significant on a number of levels. Maybe the most obvious is that it's me actually returning to painting males. I've been painting the female form and women, doing portraits of women for almost 20 years, I think. Really, the last time that I was painting men in a more consistent, regular way was probably the late 90s. My idea, my intention with this series is to celebrate and bring to light the contributions of Black hockey players who are impacting the game today and who have also contributed in the past. You know, this idea, it's something that I talked about years ago. I said I should do a series on you know, players of color in hockey, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I happened to be lucky enough to be in a documentary film, myself and 3 other painter friends, a film called Heavyweight Paint that won Best Documentary at the Edmonton International Film Festival 2 years ago. And it just so happens that the documentary that won the year before was called Soul on Ice, and it was made by a guy named Kwame Mason, a feature-length documentary on the very subject of Black players in hockey. And so the film festival organizers introduced us, and it's blossomed into a great friendship. And Kwame has been so helpful because he knows all these players, he filmed them, he put them in his documentary, he's got a relationship, and so he's been able to introduce me to a lot of these players that I wouldn't otherwise probably be able to access. The important thing about this series is that they don't come across like just because I'm a big fan of hockey. I grew up in Canada, and hockey's been in the blood, you know, it's the Canadian way. It's sort of like, you know, I mean, obviously being English and, you know, football or soccer, you know, it's in your blood, I think, for the most part. For me, it's important that I meet the guys and I have a rapport with them and talk to them about the project, and that they pose for me. We've already made a nice connection with an upper level executive who happens to be an African American woman who works for the NHL, and she's excited about the project. We're hoping to get her support to really expand this out, because what is going to happen with these is that a percentage of proceeds from the sale of any of these paintings, whatever that circumstance may be, will go to a charity of the player's choice, and then another percentage will be put into a fund that I'm going to create that is going to support urban youth hockey development. And that is something that I'm very excited about, and I'm hoping ultimately we'll get the NHL to match those funds. I want it to be a sense of being in the presence of this person as not just an ice hockey player, not just an athlete, but as a human being that's risen to the top of his profession, and it's risen to the top of what is a very, very challenging world to crack into, to break into, and to maintain a very high level of ability. I hate using the word deep because it almost feels like it's not enough, but just finding a way to make these portraits transcend oil on canvas, the two-dimensional, making them, even if it didn't resonate with anybody else, making them have a truly spiritual meaning for myself too. I'm going to get emotional now, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have the words that I want to describe it, but suffice to say, I let my gut decide, and it's been an incredible journey for me. I've no regrets, and it's not been easy all the time, and I've had plenty of struggle and plenty of questions poised to me, and you know, it's only strengthened my resolve, and the times of the greatest adversity are also my times of greatest personal growth, and they force me to be able to verbalize some of these things. They've forced me to look at my own existence and my own philosophy and views on life and views on humanity. So much has come out of it beyond me just making images, if that makes sense. It's the return on the investment of my time and energy has been so much greater and so much more meaningful than I ever could have imagined. And, you know, that is what inspires me to be thankful, and also to want to keep going and do better and do more justice to the people that I'm trying to paint.